My friends, welcome to my this week weekend special. In this week, I will be making a short video on assembly workbench, and again, I won't be going the whole thing. I'm thinking the best way to learn for me on this assembly workbench is to go by one of these at a time, so one joint at a time. So today I decided I will be practicing on this, and this has been going so far so good. So I won't be showing the modeling of these individual parts. It will be only the assembly part of this model. So a little bit of background on this. I went to the park and then I saw, well, the swing has been there all the time, but I thought this would be a nice mechanism to model in FreeCAD and see if I can actually um, build it in assembly workbench. So this is what I tried to mimic on FreeCAD. I have this lettering in there as well, which is not as prominent as in the image shows, and then I tried to do my own chain links for repeatability. Enough with the background and everything. Let's go ahead and see how I model this in assembly workbench. I'm gonna go ahead and delete everything and delete all the joints, maybe delete this whole assembly thing, and then I'll quickly go over what I built as the basic models. So first of all, I built this clamp, which is a simple sketch here. It was sketch in the middle, and then I extruded it in both sides, and then put in, so this is the extrude, and then put in a tube in the middle, and then I applied a connect, and that created this whole thing. So after the connect in the part workbench, and then I applied a fillet on these corners, and that gives me this nice clamp, so it is the fixed part in the assembly. And then I work on this link, which is also the similar workflow. I started with the tube, so here's the tube, there's the tube, and then on here what I did is, all right, so this part was a little bit, just a little bit complex. Maybe someday I will show how I created this part, but quickly, so it involves this sketch here. So if I hide this, this is the half slot, and then these are the sketches that I used. So this is kind of like a slot, a little longer on the both sides, and in the middle it's rotated 90 degree, and it's a little fatter. So that sweep actually brings in this part, right? And on here, on this rounded part, what I did was take this revolve. So not there. Here is this sketch. In relation to the sweep, I had this half sketch, half slot, and then revolved it around this axis. That creates this part, this half something, and then I mirror it over on the other side, so these two stays in relation to the sweep just like that. So that brings me this rounded part, and then I apply a cylindrical hole in the middle and cut it like this to hide everything. The cylindrical part, that's the link part. All right, and then here's the tube that I originally placed, put them together, and brings me here. On top of that, I applied a shape string from the draft workbench, and then in the part here it says create projection on surface. Using that, I created this whole thing. So it's a very small projection, very but that's how you do like a name initials on any model. All right, so that's link one, right? And then I created a second link which will be repeated over as many times as you want. So this part is the same. Only difference is this cylindrical part, which will be the actually holding it down with the previous link. So it's pretty simple. All right, so that's how I created these three basics. And now let's go over to the assembly workbench and see how to work with this. Now assembly workbench, if in 0.21 it's not there, in 0.22 developers version it's here. In FreeCAD 1 version, assembly workbench will be the one of the default workbenches in FreeCAD 1 version. What I mean by that is like the part design workbenches like this comes with the installation, whereas I had to install, for example, fasteners or like curves, that is two workbench. These are the add-ons one. Now assembly used to be add-ons. Now OnCell developed this model, this workbench, and then they integrated with it actual FreeCAD. So what they call is like contributing to the upstream, and then now it will be by default. It's more organized compared to what we have in A2 plus or like assembly 4 workbench. All right, so I start with adding the create assembly. Let me actually save this first. So now I start with, in the assembly workbench, create assembly, and see how this is bold. That's called active. If you double click on it, it's not active anymore. You cannot work on it if it is not active. So double click on it if it's not active and activate it, or right click on it and say active object. And the joint folder comes by default. Not to worry about that, we will use this folder later on. All right, so first thing first, we'll have to add the components. So we can add components from the same FreeCAD file or like in a different FreeCAD file if it is open on this side. So we will be using the same FreeCAD file, and here I want to hide all these three for now. And then let's go ahead and use this button, insert component, and then I want to add the base clamp. So this is the first object and I want to fix it in place, right? Say yes. So it's fixed. One part in assembly arrangement should be always fixed. So that would be, I'm gonna say base clamp. All right, and then on this, while this window is here, I want to add the link one, first link. Now I built it in a way that it will fit in right there, which has its drawbacks in it. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually move it just a little bit downward. All right, and hit OK. I want to go slow on this just because I am learning slowly, and that's the best way to learn. With that, what I want to do is I want to add, so here the first one, it says fixed joint. I don't want to fix anything in here. It's a swing, so it will have to swing. So the next option is the revolute joint, which it says create a revolute joint, allows rotation around a single axis between the selected parts. So it's all it does is like a rotation, like in a door hinge. So it's a hinge support or like in a hinge joint. So what I want to do, I want to select this surface and this surface. Now these two fits in real nice when I was modeling like that. So take these two and just click on it, the revolute joint. So on this workbench, I am not into doing the keyboard shortcut yet. So it will be all from the screen. All right, now we have this, it's putting it there. You can see the joint in the middle. And if it is needed to be moved left and right, you can do that from this offset. You can move it the way you want. Say for this one, I have this cylindrical part fitting right there. If you had to adjust this location, you can do it here. And then I'll come back to minimum and maximum angle. later on as a fine tuning. And then this, if this piece is not fitting right, try this button. It says reverse the direction of the joint, and this will help sometimes, maybe in the later in the process. We don't need that for now. Hit OK, so I can see that it's there, and you can see now it is moving. Very good. So previously in assembly A2 plus Workbench, you'd have to have at least 3 components to do this movement. It's good that we can do it like even with the 2 components, one fixed, one moving. All right, moving on to the next part. I want to add another part. I want to add the link to there, and I can say, okay, I'll be working here, so it looks good there. So I'll do the same thing. Take this piece and take this surface, and then hit revolute joint R. Again, no keyboard shortcut for me on this one. I don't want to mess it up. I'm learning, so I'll just go with visually. The same thing I can do the offsetting here if I want to do it, correct the center. Now I built this model when I was modeling. I fixed everything around the vertical axis, so I don't have to do that adjustment. But if you had to, there is there. And again, we will come back to the minimum maximum angle at the last part as a bonus. All right, so let's see if it moves. Yep, it's moving. So the whole thing is moving. And now I can keep adding this just to make this chain longer. That's the definition of the chain, right? So I can use this part link to one. I can even click on here 2 times or even 3 times. It will just keep adding things there. All right, so I added 4 of them. Let's see if I can go. Oh, I can keep going. I don't want to, but I can keep going. Okay, so take this and take this surface, make a revolute. I know that we don't have to, something's not wrong. Right. I'm gonna go ahead and hide all of these. Maybe not this one. All right, so this is the one we stopped, right? And now let's take this one, which is there. So now this gives me, so I'm gonna move it downward and then put it in there, and do the same for the rest of these 4 of. All right, so I have this chain link build completed in assembly workbench. Let's see if it is moving the way we want it. It is. It can move on all nodes, and basically that's the swing. So there it is. That is the swing. Maybe I should duplicate it on the other side and try to make it a swing, but it will be a different time. All right, let's go back to the this first option, this first joint, and see if we can limit the movement. Now, okay, let me save it before I mess it up. Now let's see. So if it is going around, we obviously don't want to do that. That would be too risky of a job. And so I want to limit the movement, right? Something like this. And I can do that. So let's go, as I said, go to this joint folder that we will use it every now and then. And you can see this grounded joint is visible, which is this lock. So let me hide that one. And so this is the revolute joint, the first one. So these are in order. So this is one I can see, that's the joint. So we don't need to make it visible, but double click on it and say minimum angle. Now this angling thing is, I'm still trying to figure it out, but let's see. I want to go with 45 degree to minus 45. I wish, not again, I wish it was like, so from here, it was 0 degree on this side to 360 degree. So it would be much easier to consider. So here I have minus 45 to 45. Let's see where it leads me. So that, oh, that worked, right? Right. So what it does is this part now cannot be moved up there anymore. So this like the movement is within the range that we provided, and once it reaches the movement, it goes on to moving the next part, which say if we wanted to move this, it is only moving that link. The upstream ones are not getting affected. But if you have that angle, that movement limitation set in there, looks like it will uh, work on the downstream or like the other parts once that part is limited there. All right, so I want to see if that works here as well. So that would be the next joint, this revolute joint, and say I'm going to say minus 45 was it to maximum 45. All right, let's see how it goes. Beautiful. All right, so I'm going to look at from this side, and I'm holding on to this first link, and it's working fine. All right, I have this question, like hypothetical question. When do you think, like in FreeCAD 1.5, 1.7, FreeCAD 2, when do you think the gravity, we will be able to incorporate the gravity in this model? So whenever I'm doing like this, it will go up, and then when I release it, it will just fall back onto the vertical axis due to its own weight. That would be nice, wouldn't it, right? I think it will come next year. The way FreeCAD is evolving, and then other entities are helping it out, I am thinking it won't be long before we see that physics getting involved in here, and just just make it, compared to what we did in A2 plus or like assembly 4 workbench. This part is very simple, and that's why it gives me hope. So it will be another button here, say incorporate gravity, and just I click on it, and all the parts will be simply fall into line. And now that's one of my dreams. Let me know what your dreams is. Anyway, that's all for this video. Going forward, I'll probably do cylindrical joint. I'll try to think of a good project and then work on this cylindrical joint, and maybe in combination of these two on the next video on that I do on this workbench. Thank you for watching. Let me know what are the tricks that will make my life easier. And this is a two-way learning process for me. So let me know. Don't hold it back, right? Thank you for watching. I'll see you in one of my next videos then.